Amidst the vast roads that cut through Texas, specifically near Houston, there's a spot many truckers prefer to avoid. A solitary cross, almost swallowed by the low-lying vegetation by a quiet highway, marks an urban legend that refuses to die. Big Mike, a road veteran with decades of experience and a frame as robust as his truck, had always heard the stories. Tales of inexplicable accidents, of whispering voices on the radio, and of figures materializing in the early morning fog. For him, it was just road folklore, stories told to ward off the boredom of long trips and keep the rookies in line. Nonsense from people who saw the sunrise square too many times, he used to grumble, lighting another cigarette and accelerating, leaving the cross behind in his rearview mirror, never imagining that soon that same cross would become the epicenter of a nightmare that would haunt him.
Daniel, on the other hand, was the new generation, young, ambitious, with the energy of someone who's just hit the road and an eagerness to prove his worth. He'd heard the murmurs about the cross, but considered them superstition. On a night of starry skies and an almost deafening silence, Daniel took a night route that would inevitably lead him to the legendary spot. As he spotted the cross, illuminated only by his truck's headlights, a chilling sensation ran through him, a shiver that had nothing to do with the night breeze. He tried to ignore it, but from that moment on, his life began to change. Small incidents, almost imperceptible at first, began to manifest. The radio crackling on strange frequencies, the engine sputtering for no apparent reason, shadows that seemed to move in the corner of his eye. In the comfort of his Houston home, the feeling of unease persisted. Objects out of place, a distant whisper when the house was empty. Daniel began to feel watched, a subtle paranoia that infiltrated his routine, turning the safety of home into a new stage for the inexplicable.
Uneasy with the events, Daniel sought advice from an older colleague, a man of few words, but with a gaze that seemed to have seen too much. It was he who, with a hoarse voice and a somber tone, revealed to Daniel the true story behind the cross. It wasn't just any accident, but a brutal tragedy that claimed the lives of an entire traveling family. Most disturbing was the detail that the driver responsible for the accident had fled the scene, disappearing without a trace, never having been identified or punished. As the colleague spoke, Daniel felt an inexplicable connection to the event, as if every word echoed in his own soul, awakening a memory that was not his own. The melancholy of the story blended with a strange familiarity, and Daniel realized that the cross was not just a mark of death, but a portal to a past that now seemed to intertwine with his present. I'm immensely grateful for you staying with us until this point in the video. The best is yet to come, and the truth behind the cross on the road is about to be revealed in a way you would never expect. From that day on, Daniel's sleep became a battlefield. Vivid, repetitive nightmares assaulted him every night, transporting him to the exact moment of the accident. He saw the dark road, the blinding glare of headlights, the deafening sound of the collision, the desperate screams. Most terrifying was the richness of detail, the colors of the victim's clothes, the exact model of the car, the expression of panic on their faces. Details he couldn't possibly know, but which were etched into his mind with disturbing clarity. The visions were no longer limited to dreams. They began to invade his reality. Figures at the periphery of his vision, inaudible whispers that seemed to come from the very air, the constant, suffocating feeling of being watched. The line between the real and the supernatural dissolved, and Daniel began to question his own sanity. Was he a victim of a curse, or was he going mad?
In an act of desperation, seeking an explanation for the torment consuming him, Daniel delved into research about the cross accident. Days and nights were spent in dusty libraries and online archives, until, in a stack of old yellowed newspapers, he found what he was looking for. A front-page article, dated decades ago, detailed the tragedy. Every paragraph, every line, confirmed the details of his nightmares. The shock was overwhelming. The descriptions of the victims, the exact location, the date, everything matched. But what disturbed him most was the final piece of information. The driver of the vehicle responsible for the accident had never been identified. The police closed the case without a culprit, leaving the victim's family without justice, and Daniel with a new and terrifying certainty. His nightmares were not just dreams, but fragments of a memory crying out for truth.
With the newspaper truth in hand, Daniel confronted Big Mike. The old trucker, who once dismissed the stories as nonsense, now seemed to shrink under Daniel's gaze. Reluctantly, his voice choked with guilt and fear, Big Mike finally revealed his dark secret. He was the driver who caused the cross accident. On a rainy night, under the influence of alcohol and recklessness, he had run over the family, fleeing the scene in a panic, leaving death and chaos behind. Guilt had haunted him for years, an invisible shadow accompanying him on every mile driven. The cross, which he tried so hard to ignore, was a constant reminder of his sin, a silent monument to his cowardice. The air in the truck cab grew heavy with the confession, and Daniel felt the weight of that truth, a revelation that intertwined their destinies in a way he could never have imagined. With the truth exposed, the barrier between worlds dissolved. The supernatural events, previously subtle and sporadic, intensified terrifyingly. The entity linked to the cross, the restless souls of the family, now seemed to pursue both Big Mike and Daniel, demanding justice. Sleepless nights were invaded by ghostly apparitions. Voices lamented in their ears, and the road itself seemed to conspire against them. Lights flickered, the radio broadcast static with indecipherable whispers, and the constant, suffocating feeling of being watched was ever present. Big Mike, once skeptical, now trembled with fear, confronted with the consequences of his escape. Daniel, in turn, felt dragged into a nightmare that wasn't his, but now completely enveloped him. Both were forced to confront their deepest fears and the consequences of their actions or omissions in a macabre game where life and death mingled in a dance of terror.
Desperate for an end to the torment, Daniel and Big Mike sought a way to free the souls bound to the cross. Guided by a dark intuition and the hope of redemption, they returned to the accident site. The atmosphere was dense, charged with palpable energy. A final confrontation occurred there, in the shadow of the solitary cross. Big Mike, voice choked and eyes teary, confessed his crimes aloud, asking for forgiveness from the souls he had taken. Daniel, by his side, offered his own compassion and the promise that the truth would finally be revealed. Amidst a sudden storm, with lightning cutting across the sky and the wind howling, they tried to make peace with the past. Would this be the path to redemption, to the liberation of the souls and their own guilt? Or would it be the final judgment, the condemnation of their own souls to an eternity of torment on the road? Their fate and the fate of the souls at the cross were sealed at that instant by the roadside where terror met hope. What did you think of this story that defies human understanding and makes us question the boundaries between life and death, guilt and redemption? Leave your sincere opinion in the comments below. Your interaction is very important to us. If you enjoyed this dive into the inexplicable, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more spine-chilling stories and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any videos. And to continue your journey into horror, check out the recommended video that appears on the screen now.